So how did we meet?
So I stumbled upon a YouTube video of yours, which I really liked, and then I watched a bunch more. And then there was one video in particular that was very relevant to things going on in my own life. So then I sent you an email because I wanted to talk to you about it more.
Mm-hmm.
And then we emailed back and forth and we had really good discussions.
Yep. I found you very interesting, your thoughts about that video.
Mm. Yeah, and of course I also wrote to you because I thought you were hot. That was also a reason.
But at the time, we didn't think anything of it because neither of us took anything seriously because you were on the other side of the planet. You're in Holland and...
Yeah, I was living in Holland. So obviously I thought, oh, this man is really attractive, but I thought we're just going to flirt a little bit probably and maybe have some interesting conversations. But because you were living in Australia, it wasn't necessarily like, oh, we might end up together, you know, because it's obviously on the other side of the planet. So...
But that probably played into why we just got on very freely because we thought nothing was going to happen. You were on the other side of the planet to me. So we kind of just let go and had fun and just talked to each other without any preconceptions. So I think it worked in our favor where we didn't think anything was going to come of it.
Oh, I don't think that would have made a difference for me.
Oh, for me, it was like, oh yeah, you're on the other side of the planet. Yeah, she's cute, we're flirting, but let's keep talking. So it wasn't like, let's just now go towards anything romantic or anything.
Okay. So we emailed back and forth for a while, having very interesting discussions. And then you suggested, let's go to Skype because we're typing a lot. So let's just Skype. So then we went to Skype, Skyped for hours and hours every weekend, like 8 hours at a time.
Yeah, we didn't miss a week.
But as we were emailing and Skyping, there came a turning point after a few weeks where I can't remember exactly what we said, but you made it clear to me that there could be some kind of future for us. And then I remember asking you, you mean like forever, like a forever future? And you said yes. And that's the point where it changed for me. And I went from, oh, this is a fun flirtation, but it's probably not going to go anywhere, to, oh, he is showing me actual interest. Like this could actually happen. And then I was like, okay, I really like this guy. So this is probably gonna end up being the one for me. I was already that far in my mind because I liked you so much. And then, of course, in that period, the bug was happening. So even though we knew we really liked each other and we were probably gonna have explore a future together, we couldn't travel to each other. So we knew that it was gonna be frustrating, probably for a long time. And if there had been no bug, then I would have already come over to Australia like in May, during the May break. But obviously we couldn't, so we had to wait.
Yeah, neither of us could actually fly to each other, even just to have a holiday with each other, just to sort of see how things would go and, you know, spend some time with each other. So that was off the table. So that was really frustrating.
Which is a very strange way to get to know someone also, when you can't actually see the person. I think around March or April, like a few months later, I told my parents that I was serious about moving to Australia. Like I was already serious about it then. And I remember my dad was really like shocked. He was like, whoa, which makes sense, obviously, because they didn't know you at that point. They had never met you. And my mom had seen your channel, so she wasn't too sure about you.
Yeah, she thought I was maybe some bitter, angry guy who didn't like women or something like that. So it's understandable how she'd be protective over her daughter.
Yeah, I really had to explain to her that the guy that she was seeing on YouTube wasn't the guy that I was talking to, in a way, you know, obviously.
My videos aren't like hateful, but they are very blunt, and I'm talking, sometimes I vent from a man's point of view. Depending on the topic, in my older videos, I did come off very blunt. So I can understand why your mother was...
Yeah, but I reassured her that you were a really nice guy. And then also around that time, I started looking into visas and everything already. So, but that's interesting because already a few months in, when we were serious, my mind was already set, like, I'm going to go to Australia and I'm going to spend my life with this man. So that was already like 3 or 4 months after we started talking online. So
Mm.
that was pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually interesting. Like me seeing how serious you were. You weren't apprehensive. You were already organizing stuff. What I respected most about you at the start was that you seem very sure of yourself and what decisions you make.
Hmm.
And that was really
Yeah.
nice to sort of see. So during the bug, we basically couldn't even meet to start dating like a normal couple.
Mm.
And so for pretty much a year, and we didn't know it at the time, we thought at every moment in a month or two, things will
Yeah.
open up. And it was just always they put a carrot and then they took it away, put a carrot and took it away. And so it was really frustrating to always be let down, always denied. And all we had was Skype. Now, the bad thing is we couldn't see each other. And the positive was that we really got to know each other really well, down to the core, because all we had was conversation and discussion. And we showed up every week. We didn't miss a week in the whole year talking to each other. We talked for between 4 to 8 hours. Literally, most of the time, on average, 6 to 8 hours we spoke. And we only stopped because one of us had to go to work or something. We were exhausted and had to go to sleep. So I think we really learnt our personalities inside and out. And we were more than 100% sure with each other within the first month or so, because we spent so much time in each other's personalities, you know?
It was just a no-brainer. We were just super compatible and we wanted the same things out of life. So it was just simple.
But the length of conversation, never being bored, our interest was always at like a high level every time we spoke, no matter how long we spoke. It didn't get tiring. We didn't manufacture conversations. So what I'm saying is that really went a long way for us to feel like, yeah, every time I just want to talk to this person and I don't want to stop and I want to be around them.
Yeah,
So I think that was a real positive.
Yeah, that was a big plus, that we can talk for hours about stuff. That's true. That's like a huge benefit that we still enjoy now. So another thing, that whole year that we couldn't see each other,
when we were Skyping,
when we were just Skyping, I was super frustrated at work as well, because a few months into us talking, I had already made the decision, okay, this is going to be the man for me, and I'm going to move to Australia. But now I had to wait because of the bug and I couldn't see you. And I had to stay in Holland for I don't know how much longer. I remember being super frustrated at work about that, because I guess I'm the type of person, when I make a decision, I want to go and I want to go ahead and go into that direction. And if I can't, it's like really frustrating for me, you know? So I was already kind of done with work and my head was already in Australia. So yeah, that was a difficult time. I also remember during that time, I got some comments from people who thought it was really strange that I was waiting so long. I remember my landlord saying to me, well, when I said to her, oh, I don't know when I can see him yet. And then she was like, well, why are you waiting for him? If you don't know, if it could take like 6 months, another year, why would you just wait for him? Go and date other people.
Live your life.
Yeah, it was so weird. I was like, don't you know what love is? Like, you know.
I had the same from a friend or two of mine as well. It's like, I'm happy for you, but, you know, don't stop living life. And if a girl comes along, you know, don't say no to opportunities, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what she's doing over there. I think they mean well. And I can imagine myself, if I had a good friend and I was just saying, you know, I want you to be careful. There's ways to say it. And whenever they'd say that, it's like, I'm telling you how I feel about this girl and what I want to do, and I want to go and see her and we want to be together. So if I'm so sure about this person in a permanent way into my future, why would I go around dating casually like I'm single?
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't make sense.
Then in December, finally.
Yeah, but you didn't know. I surprised you. And I just went to the flight center just to find out information about, you know, do you have any idea when flights might open up? And they told me it's opened up this week. And I said, oh, really? And then I just bought a ticket because I was waiting forever for this. And I bought the ticket and I took a photo and sent it to you.
Yeah, and then I freaked out. And also, just to clarify, you could only come to me from Australia. I couldn't go to Australia yet. And that's why he came to me the first time.
Yeah.
Because else I would have probably gone.
So while you could leave and have people come into your country, at that point, only I could leave, but they didn't allow anyone to fly into Australia. So I was the only one that could go, so it was a no-brainer. So
Yeah, so then in December you came to Holland for the first time
Mhm.
and you stayed for 2 weeks.
For a person who doesn't fly, no experience in flying, I went at the worst time, had to take tests, checkpoints, and I had a really good time.
When the first day that we met was really
When
interesting.
When I got off the plane.
Yeah, so when you arrived in Holland,
Mm-hmm.
that was really interesting because for the first day, you kind of felt like a stranger to me in a way because we'd only ever talked online. So we had to kind of get to know each other on that first day, I feel like. I had to get used to you. Yeah.
Well, I think we both prepared for that, or as in we both expected it. Now getting used to the three-dimensional person, like seeing you walk and touching you and like just all the other senses, getting used to it. Because you get used to a person in a certain way and now you get used to them multiplied by 5 and it's different.
Yeah, but like after the first, well, by the first evening, I was like, oh yeah, this is the guy I've been talking to. And then for the rest of that vacation, we just had a really nice time.
I loved it because, again, it was just us in a hotel and we could go out and there was supermarkets open, but everything else was locked down. And so it was basically like it was just us. There wasn't a lot of crowds or the world didn't interfere with us getting to know each other. It was kind of like very, very solitary, just you and me. It was really, really nice. Really cold and cozy.
Yeah, and then also that first time you came to Holland, that's when we actually officially became girlfriend, boyfriend as well. Because you asked me in person if I wanted to be your girlfriend officially.
Yeah, and we kind of did it that way where we wanted to save the special moments for face-to-face to say certain things and put certain labels on each other and whatever. And so it was really nice when we could do it face-to-face.
Yeah.
So we kind of did everything sensibly, even though we really wanted to move ahead with things. We were patient. And then when our patience was rewarded, it was really good.
And then you met my parents as well, my family, because you spent Christmas and New Year's with us.
Yeah, I met your family, and that was another indication for me, like that, you know, because you're letting me meet your family, again, not that I doubted it, but I knew this was serious. Obviously, I wouldn't have just gone to Holland for just a date. And then when I met your parents, it was a chance for your parents to meet me and see what you saw in me, so for them to see what their daughter sees as well. So that was really nice. Your mother got to see me as a person and not just her interpretation of my persona on my other channel.
Yeah, and then when the 2 weeks were over, that was also a very interesting moment for me because I remember when I dropped you off at the airport and you left, like I waved you goodbye. And I went home by myself. I felt really alone. And something that's really interesting about me is that I'm very much on my own, very independent normally, and I don't really feel alone. Like, I mean, I'm good on my own always, but when you left me, I felt really alone, not in a nice way, you know? So that was very interesting for me, like, oh, I actually really miss him and I feel kind of alone now. I feel kind of off. So that was an interesting feeling. So after you left, you went back to Australia. So by now it's January 2022. So I remember when I went back to work, I remember going to my boss and saying to him, I met him, everything's good. We're going to have a future together and I'm going to be moving to Australia once I can. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. So I gave him notice. Yeah, and after that, I just had to continue waiting and we still weren't sure when I was going to be able to go to Australia.
Yeah, it was the continued, yeah, we don't know when flights are going to open up for visitors, i.e. like you, to come. So it was again.
I think there was this rumor going around that by July, Australia was going to open up. So we were thinking, are we going to wait like about 6 months until July so that I can come to Australia? Or are you going to come over one more time? And I remember, again, going back to work, being so frustrated and missing you. And I was like, okay, I've got a break coming up in April. Please, can you come over to Holland again in April? Because I can't come to Australia. So you were like,
Did
okay.
you miss me, babe?
I missed you. Yeah. And then you came over in April for the second time.
Yeah, and that was, again, really nice, but completely different. The first time was in the city one of the major cities in Holland. And the second time was in the country in a bungalow park amongst nature and the forest and everything.
Yeah, so maybe for any Dutch viewers watching. So the first time you came over, that was in Eindhoven. That's where I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time was in Weert. That's next to Eindhoven. Yeah, so I rented a bungalow park. Yeah, and then we stayed there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was also spring when you came over, so that was nice. Yeah, we hung out there. You met my family, or we spent time with my family again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then also the second time you came over, you surprised me very much with a certain question.
Yeah, I proposed to her, which I always thought in the back of my head, if there's any person in the future I would marry, it would be you, as a kind of like if I knew it was something that you liked, I would save it for like an anniversary surprise. But I think because of like all this waiting and stuff, I thought, why am I going to kind of put it ahead for some sort of surprise? Like, I want to do it now. I want to kind of symbolically make this gesture now. And so then I kind of surprised myself. Not that I'd never had it in my mind, but I was going to leave it as a future surprise, like an anniversary kind of gift or surprise, you know?
Yeah, and it was really a surprise because we had actually talked about marriage before.
Yeah.
And you really weren't sure about marriage, like before.
I never
you met
wanted
me.
it. I never saw the point in marriage. I definitely didn't want kids, and never do, and neither do you. But marriage was like, it's pointless, and both of us were fine with not getting married.
For me, I was kind of like, well, if we would get married, it would be really nice, like kind of romantic. It's always a nice thing to be able to call someone your husband, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But if we decided not to get married, then that would be completely fine as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you probably also felt kind of safe with me saying that, and that gave you more room to make your own decision as well, maybe.
Yeah, look, you're very girly in that way, but for you, it wasn't a deal breaker. Like, there was never any inkling of, well, hopefully in the future you might change your mind. You were 100% certain. You were making plans to move to Australia and everything. And I knew over the time of getting to know you that it wasn't a big deal for you, but it was just something that I might in the future as an anniversary do it, like as a really romantic gesture, if I felt like it. But the second time coming towards you, it started to play on my mind. And I was like, why am I leaving it up ahead when I'm very sure about this person and she's going to come to Australia and move in with me and this is the one for me, you know? So for me, again, I'm not religious. I don't want to have kids, but it was just a really symbolic gesture of how I felt about you and the title I wanted to give to you. So other people say, why get married if you're not going to have kids or if you're not religious? But for me, it's
God, don't start with that.
but for me, it's just a very symbolic gesture. And I actually, once I did propose to you, the meaning of us actually deepened. I felt this, not who I knew, but what you meant.
Okay, so you proposed. Obviously, I said yes. I was very happy. And then you also told my parents. My parents were very happy for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was the second trip. And then after that, again, you went back to Australia. And then there was still this rumor that in July, Australia was going to open up. So I was starting to make arrangements around that time, like between May and July 2022. I started to make arrangements, you know, started to end my contract for my apartment, go to the government to get stuff arranged.
Paperwork.
I don't even remember all the things I did, but yeah, all the paperwork and stuff. So in July, earlier actually.
June.
I think in June, I booked my flight for July, for the 26th of July.
Yeah, they announced everything's open.
Yeah. So I booked a one-way ticket to Australia because I was going to move. And I had all my stuff packed up and sent to you in boxes, I remember. Yeah, and then said goodbye to my parents. We had a nice dinner together and then left for Australia with all my stuff.
And then the end of that year, we got married.
November 12th.
Yeah, 2022. And a nice honeymoon. And now we've been married for nearly a year and a half.
Yeah, time flies. Yeah.
Is that it?
That's the whole story, yeah. Wow, did we do it in half an hour?